take us through Branding 101, the first chapter in Branding for Dummies.
The first chapter in Branding for Dummies is not a website. It is not colors. It is knowing who your target audience is. And what that means is knowing who are the types of people that you want to work with. Because it does not matter what type of certifications you get, which a lot of trainers mess up and they think they need a million certifications to get started.
Yep.
So it doesn't matter how many certifications you get. It doesn't matter what colors you wear. None of those things matter until you figure out who you want to work with. That's one.
Hey, what's up, everybody? And welcome to Masters in Fitness Business Podcast, where you get to stand on the shoulders of giants. And today we have a giant coming to you from the great state of Texas. And we're going to talk about branding, what branding is, how you do it, how it works, and how it puts more money in your pocket. And here to talk about that is Justin Brown, because that's what he does. He's a branding expert. So Justin, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here and share some experience.
Yeah, and I'm excited for you to share a lot of your knowledge with the listeners as well. So let's get into it, man. First of all, how did you fall into branding? How did you decide? How did that become a passion of yours? And how did you decide to follow that up?
You know, I stumbled into branding by accident. So I was living in Panama City Beach, Florida, and I had a slew of celebrities and politicians and high-end people that I was working with. And some of my peers, my personal training peers, started coming to me and asking me, like, Justin, how were you able to get this? Or how are you able to work with this person? And what I thought was common sense turned out to not be so much common sense to other people. So I remember that I charged one of my friends about $45. It was her and a girlfriend. I charged them $45 to come over to my condo and get a branding lesson. And that turned into 1 week of 2 people. The next week was 4 people. The next week was 10 people, to the point to where my HOA started freaking out because I was having so many people coming through. And then that's when it sort of dawned on me. I was like, Justin, maybe you're teaching something that other people don't really know, and it's really valuable, because I was seeing people that were getting results. And that's what led to the branding agency. So that's how I got here.
Okay, and then that's how you kind of diverted past from personal training into the branding. So take us through, let's start with branding. This microphone is not, I apologize, everybody. This microphone is not cooperating. I'm gonna have to put it right in my face, which I didn't want to do. But so let's pretend I know nothing about branding. Listeners know nothing about branding. Take us through Branding 101, the first chapter in Branding for Dummies.
The first chapter in Branding for Dummies is not a website. It is not colors. It is knowing who your target audience is. And what that means is knowing who are the types of people that you want to work with. Because it does not matter what type of certifications you get, which a lot of trainers mess up and they think they need a million certifications to get started.
Yep.
So it doesn't matter how many certifications you get. It doesn't matter what colors you wear. None of those things matter until you figure out who you want to work with. That's one. And then once you figure out who you want to work with, you need to find out what their biggest problems are and how you can uniquely solve those problems. If you can do that, then you go from being able to be a general personal trainer who charges or who works with everyone to someone who works within a graphic. Now, the power of knowing who you want to work with is that you're able to charge whatever you want to work with. I mean, whatever you want to charge. And the example that I give people with that is the difference between a general practitioner and someone who specializes in something. So a general practitioner might make $100,000 a year to give you cold medicine and cure a flu. But your optometrist or someone who's a little more um, specialized in a field could end up making double, triple, or quadruple that amount because they're so honed in and so focused on a certain demographic or a certain group. So, to answer that question in a short way, the first part of figuring out your brand is figuring out who you want to work with and what your message to those people is.
I like that quite a bit. There's so much in there that you said that we talk a lot about on this show. Number one, for me, it's really a metaphor for life, right? It's like I hear people like, who's your clients? Everybody's my client. Well, if everybody's your client, then nobody is your client, right? So you have to figure out, like you said, it's like whether we're talking about websites, the way you set up your gym or your studio, to your marketing, all of that is meaningless if you don't know who you're targeting. So you
Absolutely.
have to know your audience, your clients, who you're going after, and then it allows you to be a little bit more efficient, right? Because then you can curate all of those things: your branding, your service delivery, your marketing, everything toward that client. So you don't have to market to the masses, you can just market to that demographic. And then you don't have to be everywhere, you just have to be everywhere where your clients are. And that's a much smaller bubble and easier to manage than trying to be in front of everybody. Because the reality is, like in my case, I own a small personal training studio. It's 3,000 square feet. Really, to make this go, I need around 200 clients because we have a higher price point, right? Because we do personal training, not group fitness. So I just need 200 clients. So now that I know that, and I know who my demographic is, then I can go everywhere that demographic is, either online or in person or around town. And then I can and then people are like, man, I see this guy everywhere. No, just everywhere you are. And then I just need 200 of those people. So that's a much smaller audience size that I need than versus like a big box gym where they need like maybe 20,000 members. Correct?
Mhm. You just hit the nail with. It's much easier to gain.
Hold on, Justin. You broke up a little bit. Can
It
you
makes
can
it
you start
easier.
that over?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So what you just said is very powerful because when you figure out who you want to work with, it makes it cheaper for you in the long run because you're not frivolously spending money on ads. You're able to have a specific target or a specific demographic that you want to put your services in front of that are already the types of people that you want to work with. And that's why a lot of people don't succeed with ads because they don't know who they want to target. They don't have a clear idea of who they want to work with. And they're just running ads to end.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point, and I see a lot because this show is geared toward trainers who want to make that leap to ownership or thinking about making that leap to ownership. So it requires a mind shift to go from trainer to an owner mindset, right? So, but also a lot of trainers think, well, my demographic is me, right? So I want more people like me. But maybe the problem is that there aren't a lot of people like you. People like you think they can do the fitness on their own. They're not looking for a personal trainer, or they're not looking for a group X or whatever it is you may be doing. So maybe you need to change your demographic or be smarter about your demographic. Do you have any feedback on that?
Yes. So uh, when it comes to my social media, my Instagram, my primary demographic there are Black women between the ages of 25 and 44 who generally struggle with their weight loss. They've tried and they need help. Why is that? Well, that's not who I am. I'm not an obese Black woman, but
Hmm.
I know that that is who I target because those are the types of people who generally comment the most, who interact the most with what I share and what I do. So I figured out in the long run, it would behoove me, it would be smarter of me to serve those people. And it turns out that those people are exactly like my mom. So when I started in the online world, I was posting things that I wanted my mom to know. Examples would be, I wanted her to know about her water intake. I wanted her to know the differences between muscle and properly losing weight and things like that. So when I looked around one day, I've got thousands of followers that look and mimic my mom. And that's because that was the information that I was putting out. And because I was doing that, that's what I was attracting. And it made it easier for me to create the content because I already knew what their problems were. So targeting is very powerful. I hope that answered what you were asking.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are some ways that people can, if they don't know their demographic, what are some ways that trainers can decide what demographic they want to serve or go after?
So I think that the word passion is thrown around loosely, but I'll use it just for the context of what we're talking about right now. I think that if trainers could tie their fitness into something that is a passion or something that is relatable to them, their demographic will follow naturally. Who actually primarily focuses on nursing homes because she has an attachment to elderly people who are aging, who don't have proper protocols for exercise and things like that. So we work together with getting her special contracts for nursing homes and getting her set up and things like that. So that's how she was able to find out who she wanted to work with. She used her passion for helping elderly people to fitness. Okay, elderly people hang out at nursing homes, so maybe that's where I need to start going. Another example is I have a client who loves children. He lost his child in a tragic car accident.
Mm.
So now he children between the ages of 12 and 15 how to properly weight lift, how to properly exercise, uh, be in the fitness world without damaging themselves. So if I were a trainer just getting into this or trying to figure out who my target audience is, I might try to think of who I would really want to work with. Who do I think I might have an impact on? And it doesn't matter how silly it is, or it doesn't matter how far fetched it is, because maybe I want to work with professional athletes, or maybe, again, maybe I want to work with elderly people between the ages of 80 and 90. You know, that's a tough demographic, but if that's where your passion is, if you have a message for them, then that's where you should go and that's where you should focus.
Yeah. And I like that because it's like the analogy of if you don't have a destination in mind, then any road will get you there. So it's always better to start out with a destination in mind. Start out with the demographic that you have, and then start targeting that demographic and curating your branding, your messaging to that demographic. So that's chapter one in branding for dummies. All right, so let's move on to chapter two. I think we got that one down. Let's move on to chapter two. What's chapter two in this book?
Chapter two is going to be knowing the difference between terminology when it comes to branding. So I'm going to say the difference between brand and company. Some people think that they're building a company, but they're building a brand. Some people think they're building a brand trying to use company strategies and it's not working. So companies support the brand. You need to be clear on what your brand is. What is your brand? Who is your brand for? What are you doing this for? If you can get clear on that, that's your message. And then the company is going to be the services you offer, the products you offer, the gym you have. That's the company. But knowing the difference between the brand and the company, I would say is going to be chapter two
Okay.
of it.
So can you break that down a little bit more as far as like knowing your brand, like that's your demographic and who you're serving and kind of what you do, your niche, and versus the company, which is kind of the logistic and the system side of it.
Absolutely. So some people I see let's just use Instagram as an example. I see people on Instagram all day talking about support my brand, support my brand. I have a brand and this, that, and the other. They're thinking that a brand is a name, and a brand is a name, but you must have a company behind that. There needs to be, like you just said, logistics. So whether it be products or services or the way your business is structured, all of those things are company versus brand. Your brand is the recognition. Your brand is your reputation. Your company is the thing that makes you the money, or how you earn the money rather.
Okay, gotcha. All right, can you give us some examples of brand and company as they work together?
Say that one more time. You broke up just a little bit.
Sorry, can you give us some examples of brand and company and how they work together?
Yes. Brand and company. So we could use Jillian Michaels as an example, since we're talking fitness here. She's no, so her brand is the Jillian Michaels. Her company is everything, all the products, all the services that she's able to offer through her personal brand. Her personal brand is going to knock down doors and open opportunities. Her company is what's going to seal the deal and get those paychecks covered and get the setups done and get the products pushed out. The
Okay,
two can work together. I hope
okay.
that was a better example for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So her brand is kind of what she's known for, her mission, kind of her life's work, so to speak. And then the company is whatever reinforces that, whether it's a treadmill, exercise equipment, a nutrition product, then that's the company that reinforces and supports her brand.
Right. You want to have a brand influential. You can have a brand that does not make money. And that's why I'm saying that the brand and the company can be does not make money would be someone on Instagram with 15,000 followers, 1,000 likes on their photos, but in their bank account, they're getting zero money.
Gotcha.
Money because they don't have a company structure.
That makes total sense. Okay, good. So I heard Dave Chappelle was on the Letterman show. My next guest needs no introduction. And Letterman was asking him why he didn't weigh in more on a current political situation. And he said, he goes, Martin Luther King died penniless. Malcolm X died penniless. He goes, I don't want to be penniless. So, I'm going to capitalize on my brand. So maybe that was a bad example, but that's the point of having a brand versus having a company to help you capitalize on that brand. And it's better to have both. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. All
That was
right.
a great
And
example.
then, so go ahead.
Yeah, I said, yeah, that was a great example. Yeah.
Okay. And then what's chapter 3 in the book?
Chapter 3 in the book is going to be knowing what your products and services are, knowing what they are and who they're for. So we've already talked about knowing the target. We've already talked about knowing the differences between your brand and your company and setting it up the right way.
Hmm.
But who are your products and services? What's going to differentiate you from the next person? What is your selling point? What do you do that is so beyond amazing that your clients don't even want to go somewhere else? For me, branded myself as a private sector personal trainer. I don't expect you to know what that is because that's something I made up. I don't even know, but it sounded good to my clients and it sounded good to me and it got me paid. So that was my unique selling point. I
Hmm.
knew that my high-end clientele in Panama City Beach, I knew that they valued discretion. I knew that they valued having someone who could present themselves professionally overtaken by the fact that that person may be a public figure. So I knew all of those things. So by me going in saying I am a private sector personal trainer, I'm able to help you on a holistic side, or I was in massage therapy at that time, so I was able to offer yoga, massage therapy. I did some life coaching work. I had a lot of things that I was able to offer that would differentiate me from the crowd. Now, I also don't want people to hear me say that you have to go get a bunch of certifications to be different, because you don't. Your training method, the way you talk to people, the way you deliver yourself, all of those things can be a unique selling point. And the way that I present myself is generally different than the average trainer in that area. The average trainer thinks they have to be hard, they think they've got to be and all of that. I come in with a very soft edge, and it generally makes people feel comfortable, which again would be why my audience is primarily women.
Yeah, and I like that a lot. There's a lot that I want to unpack there because I agree with you on the certification. I know trainers that have literally 20 to 30 different certifications across the board in different areas. And here at Catalyst, I'm gonna give myself a plug here. We encourage, with the exception of 2020. 2020 is an exceptional year, but I encourage, we make it mandatory for them to get continued education, but we make it directed. So instead of getting 5 different certifications in 5 different areas, we want them to kind of explore, figure out kind of what lights their fire, and then dive deep into that. So I would rather see them get 3 certifications in one area versus 5 certifications in different areas, right? Because then they can become the go-to person on the team or in the area on that particular subject, whatever they have the certifications in. I have 5 certifications in mobility, flexibility, and stretching. All right. So automatically that makes you the mobility expert trainer, right? So then that's a brand. You can brand yourself like that, and then you can create that niche and own that niche, which I think is very important because right now, especially during COVID, with everything kind of going online or online presence growing in the personal training field, then it's easy for personal trainers to become a commodity. And when you become a commodity, then you're only competing on price, and that's a race to the bottom. So any way that you can make what you do a product and not a commodity, like you can get coffee, but you can also get Starbucks, and everybody will agree those aren't necessarily, they're kind of the same thing, but not necessarily the same thing, right? So if you can become the Starbucks of trainers, then you can charge more, because you're going to pay more for a Starbucks than you're going to pay for that coffee at QT, right? So if anything that you can do to make yourself stand out as a product, then not only are you going to get more business, you're going to stand out, but you can charge more and make more money. So that's why I think continuing education needs to be directed and not just that shotgun approach, right? Then you become that expert, that go-to person in the area, or even on your team. Then you become a product, you become a specialty. Would you agree with all of that?
I couldn't have said it better myself. I agree with everything you just said, and that just goes back to say the differences between a general practitioner versus someone who specializes. If you want to be general and you want to accept that $100,000 a year, that's perfectly fine. If you
Mhm.
want to spend a little bit more time in education and learning a specialty, and you want to make that $600,000 a year, that's fine too. Either way, same amount of energy. I
Yeah,
think people
yeah,
don't realize you're putting out energy either way, so you may as well go for the bigger bang, in my opinion.
yeah, absolutely. And I like that, like the personal trainer for the private sector. I like when you can create your own category, even though it's kind of like splitting hairs, it's still your own categories, right? Because who's to say that you're not a personal trainer for the private sector? What does that mean? Well, what does that mean? Well, let me tell you what it means,
That's
because
not
since I've created this category, so let me define it for you. And by the way, I'm the only one in this category. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Correct. You cannot challenge me on something I create. And I don't believe in competing. I believe in dominating, which is why I like to stay in my own lane. And you said something earlier that I wanted to piggyback off of. One of my mentors one time taught me that it is a poor man's game to compete in prices. And I didn't quite understood what that meant until I started working with my high-end clientele. And I started paying attention to how they valued things. And I realized that they don't compete in price, they compete in value. So all I needed to do was present my value in a way that was superior to the other people around me, and I won every single time. And that goes back into branding and knowing how to stand out and knowing how to communicate with your audience and knowing how to speak their language. When I was able to start doing those things, it made a dramatic difference. Yeah. So
Okay.
compete in price. I mean, not compete in value, not price.
Yeah, I like that. So what's the next chapter? So we covered what, three, four so far?
Yeah.
What is chapter? We're speeding through it. It's like a audio book on 1.5 speed.
Man, I could go all day. I'm telling you, branding is something that's so important to me. But I would say another thing, another tip, or chapter four, we would say, could easily be networking. I don't think that enough of us do it effectively. Some of us are trying, maybe some of us in maybe some of us do it by accident, but to be intentional and be effective with it are two different things. When I was a personal trainer, I would intentionally seek out events where I knew my target audience would be. I intentionally did that. In fact, my first set of clients came from me professionally stalking them. And when I say professionally stalking, I mean that when they would post that they would be in places, so would I, especially if it was a public event that was within my price range and affordable. So was I. I was there because I want you to see me. And then eventually they start building up that know, like, and trust. It starts turning into, oh, you know what? I think I saw him over here. Think I saw him over there. So now when I hit you with that $2,500 uh, training package, you build up enough trust and know like factor that you trust me. And then of course you start building up the rapport with the word of mouth and so on and so forth. But networking effectively, intentionally seeking out events and places and being seen in places where your target audience is going to be. When it comes to targeting affluential people, you need to go to their grocery stores. You need to be seen in their neighborhoods. You need to be seen doing the things that they do and try to blend in and appear as though you're one of them. And then if you're bold and you're able to tackle social media, if you've hired me to help you, then you can figure out where they are and you can start putting up your ads and running your uh, making your content appeasing to those high-end affluential people. S is easier.
Yeah.
That's how you do it when it comes to networking.
Yeah, and again, it goes all the way back to chapter one because then you can be surgical in your marketing efforts. But I think that brings up a good point because I was talking to Frank Nash, who's a mentor of mine, and we were talking about how social media has kind of made trainers lazy, right? Where
Oh
they
yeah.
want to just post something or they want to run an ad or boost a post, but they don't want to go out to local businesses. They don't want to do any B2B networking. They don't want to do networking group. They don't want to go out to like fairs or events or stand at a booth or get involved in charities that their demographic is interested in. And that's where the rubber hits the road, right? I mean, because everybody, the big craze now, and it's really effective, is this automation in your marketing, right? Which there's definitely a place for. But if it's just automation, then it's not going to produce any results. You have to insert some kind of personal intervention, personal contact intervention, be it a phone call, a conversation, face to face conversation, or something, because nobody buys from an email. Nobody buys from a post. Nobody buys just from having a booth or a banner up. they buy when they have a conversation with you, right?
A lot of the times, yes. You just said something that stood out to me about networking. So I have a talk called From $85 to Six Figures. And in that talk, one of the things that I talk about is how I turned $85 into six figures by going into real estate offices, hair salons, fire departments. I would take an $85 Subway sandwich, the footlongs,
Hmm.
and I would present who I am, what I do, and why they needed to hire me. At that time, I was running a big boot camp. Was on mission readiness if I was talking to firefighters. It was on how to present yourself if I was talking to realtors. It was how to get the best out of your work if you're a hairdresser and you're on your feet using your arms all day in this position. So I would talk to their particular pain points, and I would always present me as the solution, whether it be training with me or coming to my boot camp. That little going out of my way to present that to people, that $85 ended up turning into six figures that year because I started presenting myself, showing people the value, and again, being strategic with who I was going into. Why did I specifically go into realtors' offices? Because they have money and they, duh,
Yeah,
and looking good. And most of them are up and down stairs all day. They're in and out of their car, and they don't want to look like fat slobs when they're trying to present this $16 million beachfront home to Will Smith.
right.
So,
Yeah,
so, when I'm able to talk to them in that type of way and it triggers their, it turns on those light bulbs, they're like, oh, yeah, wow, image does matter. Okay, so tell me more about your program now.
right. Yeah. And I like that I and I think programs are easier to sell than services, you
Oh,
know,
yeah. Yeah.
if you can package it like that. But I like that. There was something that I was going to ask you about when you said, oh, when you went in with the Subway sandwich and then you gave your presentation, and I like how you changed the presentation because it's all kind of the same thing. It's
Oh,
just
yeah.
how you want to kind of repackage it, the
Yeah.
outside wrapping, so to speak. Um, but did you have any kind of offer that you would give them along with that? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so I would reach out to the hair salons. Obviously, I was strategic with the hair salons. I only went to the ones who had the celebrities, who had the name and all of that. But I would say, hi, my name is Justin Brown. I run a facility here, or I'm doing boot camp, or I'm doing new training, and I'm just looking for an opportunity to explain to you what I do. There's no hard sell, but I do have an offer for you. One is I'd like to offer you free food. And the second is that I'd like to offer you a free trip to my boot camp. So, would you mind if I come in and speak to your staff this Wednesday during lunchtime? Oh, yeah, sure. Come on over.
Okay.
Usually work
Easy,
out.
easy.
Yeah.
And then you were able to get tons of clients from that.
Absolutely, because I'm spending about 35 minutes, one, breaking down their barrier, giving them free food, and letting them know that I relate to them. I know what it's like to be, not in the best shape and have to work all day. I get it. In fact, I know most of you are busy right now because you've got another client that's going to be coming in right after I finish talking to you. So I understand it, and I'm sitting there for 35, 40 minutes breaking that down, making myself relatable and presentable. And then I hit them with a very soft sell, whether it be a training package or, again, like I just said, coming to my boot camp or whatever. And what it usually ends up happening is if I don't close a majority of the people there right then, I always get people coming back to me. And I would say about 50% of the time I get invited to come back.
Okay, I got it. And so you're playing the long game there. You're getting immediate leads, but you're also kind of planting seeds. Kind of what you said about like getting to know and trust you, right?
Well, yeah, because my theory is that, let's just say I only 50% close rate, which is usually pretty low for me, to be quite honest. But let's just say I get 50% close rate at a presentation. I know that if I come back to this same spot in about 2 months, I'm going to get more because those people who did sign up with me are likely going to stay on. They're going to get the results. They're going to be talking about it. And then when I do come up that next time, now I've got more clout. Now I've got more credibility because people are speaking to me like they know me. And they're going to be encouraging their friends who may not have been at the last presentation or who may have been on the fence. They're going to encourage their friends to come over because, hey, so was I. I'm his client too. I got
Yeah.
the result.
Okay, so let me play devil's advocate here. Or in the age of COVID, which we're dead smack in the middle of, chances are you're not going to be able to get a presentation in front of a group of employees or staff. So what are some alternatives that you can do for that?
So, what I already have my mentees doing, they have put together presentations that are exactly as though you would present them in person, except you're reaching the pain points of them being online. So, what are the pain points of that company or that business now that they're online? So we know that people don't have good eating habits. So I have them talking about that in their presentation. We talk about employee retention. We talk about how to keep people focused and how exercise and how it correlates with the brain and the physiology and how it makes people focus more and how that's going to increase work productivity and things like that. So not much has changed, primarily just the presentation, or not necessarily the presentation, but who we're presenting to, I guess I should say.
Yeah, so who would you target that towards?
I have my people targeting real estate agents, fashion houses, fire departments, which is great when you want to work with the government. We love focusing on veteran run businesses. I am a veteran and I like giving back to them. Um, or demographic, the people that you want to serve, you will know who you need to reach out to. So for an example, Lily, the woman I was telling you about, who, or my client who works with nursing homes, she knows that she needs to be reaching out to the HR of certain nursing homes. She knows what to say and what to do and who to look for because that's her demographic. She's worked with me. She's learned how to find them through LinkedIn, through specific hashtags, through looking and how scaling and Googling. She's learned how to find. So now that she knows who the key players are, it's very easy for her to send a quick video that shows the value in who she is and what she does. And then she's able to follow that up with a PDF that outlines who she is and what she does. And that opens the door for negotiations.
Got it. I like it a lot. Okay. So we've gone through several chapters in the branding uh, uh, catalog, branding book. So how do we put it all together into kind of one cohesive tactic or strategy?
So to break it down, let's say the first thing you want to do is, of course, figure out who your target audience is. So let's use me as an example. Once I figured out who my target audience was, primarily Black women between the ages of 35 and 44, 25 and 44, who needed to lose weight. Now I know what their problems are. Now I need to create solutions to those problems. Now, when I say create solutions, those solutions can come in the form of webinar. We're talking digital services here. So they can come in the form of PDFs, ebooks, webinars, however I choose to put the information out. Next up, how am I going to market it and make money from it? That's next. You got to figure that part out. Are you going to, are you going to use Gumroad? Are you going to hire people? Are you going to have an ad strategy? And then once you start getting that together, you should be able to put a system together that has your knowledge, your experience, your expertise that you're able to automate and just make money over and over and over again. And that system would be courses or modules, something that is a breakdown of how your target audience can go from A to B using your help. But the key is that you want to remove you from having to be that help all the time. You don't want to have to consistently trade your time for money. You want to put something that's going to be able to be downloaded, be able to be purchased in your sleep without you having to do anything, that's going to solve a problem for them. So that's how I would break that down.
I like that a lot. So then once you figure out what the target is, then you curate your branding to that, and then you tie that with your marketing,
That's it.
and then you just watch your bank account grow.
Essentially, it sounds it sounds that easy, but the reality is that you're going to forever be in this phase of creating. In fact, there are four things that I think every entrepreneur, every digital entrepreneur should forever be doing, and I call it CLAM. I think that they should forever be creating, learning. Um, oh my goodness, I forgot what the A and M are. Create, learn, assess, and market.
Okay.
You should always create products. You should always be creating content, whether it's for social media or whether it's for private, whatever, but create content, create social media posts, ebooks, webinars, get in the habit of doing that. And learning. You should always learn. You should always have some type of course, mentor like we have, get in groups, get around people who are able to fuel you and motivate you, but always learn. Assess, the A, assess where you are to make sure that it's where you want to go. Do not allow life to get so crazy that you just continually have that shotgun approach to life and you don't have that clear direction. If you consistently assess, you can make sure that you're always going in the right direction. And then that M is for marketing. You have got to get in the habit of putting yourself out there. Always put yourself out there. Always. One of the key lessons that I teach is when it comes to marketing, you've got to shift your mindset. A lot of trainers get in the mindset of saying, well, I don't want to always put my services out there because I don't want to bore people, or I don't want to um, oversaturate people's timelines with what I'm doing. Well, there are two things wrong with that. One is you're thinking about the people you're pushing away. You should be thinking about the people you're attracting, because the people you're pushing away were never going to spend money with you anyway. And I'm not trying to say that's your only end game, but it's a part of being in business. So change your mindset on that. That's one. Secondly, um, train of thought.
So the two things: pushing people away, think of the people you're coming back.
Yeah, I lost my train of thought. I'm sure it'll come back to me.
That's all
But
right. We'll come back to it.
the marketing, yeah, consistently putting yourself out there. Yeah, anyways.
Yeah, and I think the
Consist-
marketing, needs to be a little bit more sophisticated, because I think a lot of people these days put all of their eggs in the social media basket, and I think it needs be a little bit more diverse and than that. And I think you have to be consistent with it, because I think a lot of people are looking for that one Hail Mary pass that's going to that's going to put them over the top and make them rich and make their gym successful, when that hardly ever happens. All right. If you're throwing Hail Marys, you're in trouble, right? So that means you're down. So you need something that is comprehensive, diverse, meaning more than just social media, and consistent throughout the year. Would you
Yes.
agree?
Absolutely, totally. And when it comes to consistency, I have a whole host of programs that I like to use that automate things in a way that help me appear consistent, but there's always got to be that genuine touch like we talked about earlier. Like you
Yeah.
can't just automate life and think that all of your sales are always going to be high and mighty, especially if we're doing high ticket sales, because there always has to be that human that human interaction at some point. People are going to want to know who they're spending money with, who they're interacting with, and things like that.
Yeah, and I think you brought up a good point too. You said when it comes to marketing, you have to get comfortable with putting yourself out there because every brand needs a face, right?
Yeah,
They gotta be able to connect it. They've got to be able to connect with your brand. And usually they connect with whoever's the face of that brand. Would you agree?
absolutely. In today's society, we as entrepreneurs don't have the luxury of not being on social media, whether it be our face or our business in general, but primarily our face, because people buy into stories. People buy people. People buy into what we say to one another. They're looking at our videos, they're looking at our micro expressions. All of those things tie into the know, like, and trust factor. Because if people know, like, and trust you, they will spend money with you. That is a golden lesson in business that has been echoed a million times. This is not the first time you've heard it.
Yeah,
But you're absolutely
yeah, I agree. All right. Well, this has been great, Justin. I appreciate you taking the time. I'm glad we connected because I think a lot of people, myself included, have a lot of misconceptions about branding and what their brand is and all of that
what?
stuff.
It
Yeah.
just came back to me. I knew the second thing that I wanted to say about marketing
Mhm.
is you have to shift your mindset from going to I'm helping people with my posts and things like that to who am I helping? When I train my clients to transform their mindset, I train them to think that if I am not marketing today, I am taking away an opportunity for someone to transform their life. There are too many people out here who are on the edge of suicide who need what we offer as fitness professionals. How dare you not promote your new fitness program? How dare you not talk about your services in a way that is going to help people? When it comes to spending money, I've learned that you actually help people by charging them, because typically when people spend money for something, they're more serious about it. And because you and I are fitness professionals, we understand the power and the value of fitness. So how dare you not give someone else the opportunity to experience what you have right now? If you can think about marketing that way, it makes it a lot easier to create those posts and put send.
Yeah, and I like that that mindset of you're helping people by charging them because you're right. When they pay full price, it has more value to them than if you give them a discount. And I think as trainers, we fall into that trap of we get into this industry to help people, right? We genuinely want to help people, and so we're like, let me give them a little break on the price or give them that little handshake or side deal. And before you know it, that's all your memberships, and you're wondering why you're working your ass off and you're not making any money. Well, because of
Right.
you. It's your own damn fault.
Right.
So I agree with you. I think giving people a discount or giving them a handshake deal is doing them a disservice, and you a disservice. Charge full
And
price for what you get, for what you do.
you're right. And a lot of that comes from us believing, a lot of that comes from people having um, bad mindset issues when it comes to money. And when people value, or when people have a negative connotation towards money, they won't run towards it and they won't value what they do.
Right.
And when you charge people full price, people pay attention when they pay full price. So,
Yes.
again, to what you're saying, you're doing people a favor, you're doing them a service.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. Well, Justin, again, thanks for taking the time because I think a lot of people, as I said earlier, I know I have some misconceptions when it comes to branding and what a brand is and how do you promote that brand and how do you make money off that brand. So I appreciate you kind of breaking it down into the simplest of terms for the layman, the branding for Dummies book. I really appreciate that. So I always
Yeah.
end with three questions. And it's my favorite part of the show because we kind of get outside. We kind of pull back the curtain on Justin a little bit and we get some
Uh-oh.
really good answers. So, my first question is what has been your most successful failure? And by that, I mean something that seemed like a devastating loss at the time, or it's already come to you, but you were able to take lessons from that you that propelled you to greater success down the road?
So remember how I told you earlier that I was a massage therapist?
Uh-huh.
Well, I was working at a really high-end spa and it was owned by one of my good friends. And some situations had occurred, three in particular. And I walked in one day and I had to make a decision literally right there on the spot if I was going to continue allowing the situation to continue or if I was going to stop it. And by stopping it, that meant that I was going to have to quit my job. I had no savings account, I had no backup plans. I only had a few personal training clients on the side. I was working at the spa full time. So I walked in, and again, long story short, I just had to make that decision on the spot if it was going to be my sanity or theirs. And fast 4 years later, that same spa that I had to quit from has now been one of my highest earning client or one of my highest paying clients. So I ended up quitting them and they ended up hiring me. So that has been one of those stories that I think one of my biggest lessons was that I will always walk away from a situation that does not fit well or sit well with my sanity because I know that there's something that is greater for me that is going to be calm and peace for me. I deserve calm and peace. I don't deserve anxiety, stress, and drama. So therefore, I try to walk away from those things. And in doing so, relationship with them, but it has also been, again, one of my largest financial gains in consistently, yeah, from them.
So they hired you to help them with their branding?
Correct. They hired me to help them build out online digital massage courses so that they could start training their massage therapists and new massage therapists who come into their business. Their strategy for training is really top notch. So I convinced them to digitize it, put it in video form so that you can create passive income. And here we are. Now they're doing that.
Oh, nice, nice. I know we talked about that a little bit on the call, and we didn't get a chance to kind of touch on that. But I'm gonna request the right to reserve to have you back on, so that maybe we can dive into that later. All right.
Sure.
So good answer. I like that, and that's also one of my favorite questions because I think Gloria, it wasn't Gloria Steinem, it was shoot. Ariana Huffington. She said, failure is not the opposite of success, it's part of success. But
Yes.
so, my next question is, since you've been in the fitness industry, COVID is excluded because nobody saw this coming. But what has been the biggest surprise that you've had to deal with that you did not see coming?
In terms of business,
Yeah.
well, for me, I have had to deal with scaling and the onflux of taking on tons of new clients because my business, my branding business has been online for years. So, fortunately for me, I was already winning when COVID happened. So now more trainers are starting to see the value in setting up their business the right way, and that's where they come to me because we set up a business the right way the first time so that trainers can start making money quickly. We show them the ins and outs. I show them all the things that went wrong for me and what to avoid. And of course, like I said, people are seeing the value in that. So me having to onboard those people and get even more strategic with what I'm doing, but still make sure that I have prices that are available to people who are brand new to this because I used to do a lot of B2B, business to business, and a lot of my contracts would definitely not be suitable for the average client or the average
Hmm.
person.
Gotcha.
Having to restructure and sort of keep that in mind is something that I've had to deal with, which is it's a good problem and a good challenge to have, I think.
Okay. So different entry levels depending on where your potential
Right.
customer is. Got it. All right. The same thing with our business, right? Same thing with the training studios. You got to have different points of entry. All right. And then my last question is, where do you go for your personal and professional development?
Woo, good question. I have a network of individuals that I am connected with who pour into me on a daily basis, and I pour into them. And these are people that I have collected through the years of being an entrepreneur. I am fortunate to say that everyone in my circle, uh, I would say most of them are millionaires who are under 40 and understand the value in giving back to others. They help me understand how to be more philanthropic. They help me understand how to spot trends. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't give their network value for. My network is constantly putting me up on game, giving me insight about new apps and new things that I need to be a part of so that I can have the maximum return for them. Where did I find these people? Like I just told you, these, but I recommend anyone watching this podcast or listening to this podcast to seek out groups on social media that are specifically designed to helping you cultivate business. One of those places is going to be my face coach on Facebook. That's a good place for people to.
Justin, you cut out. Can you repeat that?
Which part?
You said you were talking about your Facebook.
Yeah, if you go to Facebook, JBiz Coach, JBIZ, and then Coach, you'll see that I'm constantly pouring information and giving out good tips and tools. Those are the types of things that people need to be plugged, constantly getting fueled with the information that they need.
Yeah. Always learning, always growing, always evolving. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. No, I like that. And I'm big on mentors. Everybody that I've talked to on this show has some type of mentor, somebody that they use to guide them on the path, who's already blazed that trail, and they're just kind of following along on their coattails. Because I mean, that's the secret to the success. You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So choose those people wisely.
Undoubtedly, having a mentor, what is, in my opinion, the difference between succeeding and not succeeding. Because why would you not want to get information and insight from people who have already gone before you? To me, that's it's like, why would you want to charter life unnavigated if there's already someone who's giving you the blueprint? I think the best things that I ever do for my business and myself are make financial investments to learn, to be a part of groups. So my mentor from afar used to be Les Brown. Are you familiar with Les Brown?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So he was my mentor from afar for the longest time until I started realizing I could touch him, in a sense of I could actually invest in his programs and I could be a part of his webinars. I could actually be a student. And once I started changing my mindset, like that changed things. So I just recommend everyone, if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, make the investment of time and money and energy and find you a group or a mentor that you can rely on who can feed you.
Yeah. Somebody told me the best advice that I ever got, and I live by today, is always strive to be the dumbest person in the room.
That's good.
Yeah, because then you're learning, and that means you're around people who are smarter than you, who can teach you things, and then you can pass that information or benefit from that information. Pass that information along or benefit from it. So, Justin, this has been great. So, can you tell listeners where they can go if they want to get more information, get in touch with you, all that good stuff?
So I want to do some free branding audits for your listeners. So if they will send me an email to justin@justinbrown.biz and let me know that they are a listener of this podcast, I will do a free branding audit with them. I will sit them down, go over their online strategy and help them create some resources and some tools or create a strategy for free. It'll take about 30-35 minutes, but I'll do that for your listeners. And if they really want to contact me, again, the email address is justin@justinbrown.biz, or they can, of course, go to my website, which is justinbrown.biz. And my favorite place to hang out is Instagram. My Instagram handles are Justin Brown Fit and Justin Brown Biz,
Okay.
BIZ.
Okay. Got it. And then the Facebook group that you also mentioned,
JBiz.
JBiz. Okay, got it. And all of those links will be in the show notes. So go to trainergym.net, click on this episode of the podcast, and all the links to get your free branding audit and get in touch with Justin will be right there on the show notes. So, Justin, thanks a lot, man. This has been great. Enjoy that great weather outside. You're sitting outside with short sleeves, and I'm jealous. So enjoy that great weather down there in Texas, man. And I will definitely talk to you later. Thanks for taking the time today.
Thank you, Jim. And I hope you have a great day. Thank you again for the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks, man. This has been awesome. All right. Bye.